A very good morning and welcome to the second day of the cross-country World Cup season. We're in Sweden, Gällivare, hosting the first races. Individual yesterday, it's the first team event of the season this year. Always an interesting one, but if you look down the records, the Scandinavians have dominated, and in particular Norway, who have been in a class of their own in the women's 4x5, which is the first race off. Patrick Winston and Mike Dixon, your hosts for today's race. Mike, we had a fantastic start to the season, but from the women's results, can anyone touch the Norwegians?
They look almost untouchable, don't they, on paper? They raced so well yesterday. Three of them in the top 10. The relay's different, though. It depends. You can latch on to the skier ahead of you. We see that in mass starts, in pursuit races, and it is possible that Sweden can probably hold them today.
Well, those of you who've followed cross-country over the years will know that the relays now are mixed disciplines. So we have two classic legs followed by two freestyle legs, and that does give some of the smaller nations a little bit of a chance, and those who have classic specialists can generally come through. Now, the last time the Norwegians were beaten was actually only in 2010. That was Sweden, and they did it on the second classic leg, and I think that might be their only chance, because Johaug and Bjørgen looked so good in the freestyle yesterday that you feel that the Norwegians might just be too strong. Looking down the teams, we've got Norway, Sweden ranked 1 and 2, United States ranked number 3 after some fantastic racing yesterday.
What a team they are turning out to be, and with Holly Brooks, inspirational for the rest of the team. She has not had a lot of international experience. Who knows, that could lift the American team to the podium once again today.
Well, that would be a fantastic achievement if they manage that. They'll have to hold off a pretty strong-looking Russian team, Finland, of course, and the Germans, who were very, very strong in sort of 2006, 2007, 2008. Welcome back to Gällivare. You've missed nothing so far. The race due to get underway in just a couple of minutes' time. Let's have a look at the conditions. Air temperature just above freezing, 1 degree. The snow, of course, below freezing, otherwise it wouldn't be here. And conditions pretty similar to yesterday. But because of the classic legs, the technicians have had a little bit more work to do.
It's always difficult around the 0 degrees. The snow crystals aren't sharp, they're rounded off, and therefore the grip wax certainly makes it more difficult. Some of the coaches or technicians have been trying waxless skis, fish scale skis as well, but they don't glide quite as fast as the traditional tub waxing.
Well, it certainly could be the deciding factor in this race, who gets the waxing right for the first two legs. It won't be a problem for legs 3 and 4. Those are the freestylers. We have a look at the teams. Germany going with Katrine Zeller on the first leg, the lady from Oberstdorf, finished 33rd yesterday. Chandra Crawford, who of course came to fame in 2006 at the Winter Olympics, starting first for Canada. Shapovalova going for Russia 2, Sweden 3, and that's still not a bad team. And it was only back in fact, last year, where Norway got first and second position. There's certainly a chance that they could achieve that today. So at the front is Holly Brooks of the United States, and my goodness, what a rise to fame she's had. She got selected for the Winter Olympics in Vancouver, actually, and was very surprised. It turned out to be her second ever international race after a World Cup over in Canmore. Number 5, that's Anne Kiloinen for Finland, takes the first leg. 23:38 her time yesterday, some 1 minute 7 seconds off the pace of the race winner Marit Bjørgen. But this, of course, a different discipline, and Kiloinen, well known as a very good classic skier, so she should be able to stay with the pace over the first 5 kilometres.
30 seconds.
So welcome to Sweden. The women are on their marks for the first relay of the season. 4x5 kilometres. Each leg will take well under 15 minutes to complete. There is Skofterud of Norway. Again, a good performance from her yesterday, but again missing out on the victory. She's actually a month younger than Marit Bjørgen. I think that her career has not been timed well. So away they go, a couple of little slips, but will try and assess what they've got on the bottom of their skis. A little bit of guesswork will go on there. But as you say, Mike, there might be a few on hairy skis, waxless skis, just to avoid the problems with the change of temperature as they go around the course.
That's always a big factor. Of course, the total climb throughout the 4 legs today, 640-metre climb. And as we see them leaving the stadium, 30 seconds in, it's been flat, and now we hit the base of the very long climb up to 475 metres.
Positive start from Kiloinen. Holly Brooks has gone straight to the front from Anchorage, Holly Brooks. And she's got 3 sisters who are triplets. It must be a fantastic family. Been trying to do some research on them, but haven't found out what they get up to. But Holly Brooks herself, 30 years old, new to the scene, and she's a ski coach, so she spends much of her time on skis anyway. But good to see her coming and starting to take the racing side very seriously indeed.
Well, actually, as you mentioned earlier, out of all these top cross-country skiers, Holly Brooks, quite incredible, her journey into international racing, from her parents being coaches as well, from that background. And I think she only had 5 months of full-time training leading into the Olympic Games in Vancouver, compared to all of the rest who've had many, many years. It's quite a story.
Well, here she finds herself mixing in with some of the biggest names in cross-country. Now, most of the top stars will be taking the 4th leg, but a team that have certainly put their best first are Canada. They're wearing bib number 9. We'll try and pick them out, and Chandra Crawford taking the first leg. So the Canadians have gone for their best first, and I guess when you've got a team that has 2 or 3 strong skiers and one slightly weaker one, that's not a bad policy.
It's not really. We can see, we'll hopefully see another camera shot. Oh, is that Germany
looks like
down?
Germany, certainly looks like Germany, and that's Katrine Zeller.
Ski pole broken.
A lot of time lost now. Who is going to be generous enough to hand her a pole? Look at that, fantastic. She's lost time, she's lost a lot of places, but she's only lost some 50 metres or so, and Germany's still in the race. But that is the worst possible start for them, and Stephanie Buller, who takes the 2nd leg, will not be happy about that.
Good to see the heart rate of Ingmarsdotter, the lead skier for Sweden. She's on 92% of her maximum, and that was a slightly delayed reading. She was on the downhill section. The recovery, it does happen within that 15-second descent.
Well, it's pretty quick to get up to that level. It takes quite a lot to get up to 100% of your maximum, and I don't think any of them will be reaching that. Certainly because the approach into the stadium isn't that difficult. I think even at the finish they'll be below 100% of max. Now, are we starting to see a move? Vibeke Skofterud has certainly sensed that Norway too are going to try and steal a charge, and this is something that we've seen. Heidi Weng it is for Norway too. Let's have a look. Is this the fall?
This is Zeller was placed nicely there. She trips over herself, no interference from anyone else.
I think she might have put a ski on top of some dirt or some paper or something, because that right ski stopped dead and there was no one else there, as you said, Mike. So a little unfortunate.
Indeed. Possibly when you're stepping out of the icy tracks and then onto the powder snow, the grip wax, the wax you have under the skis, possibly clister today for the ice. Certainly something anchored her right leg there and made her fall over her own skis.
So Heidi Weng it is who leads for Norway 2 at the moment, and Vibeke Skofterud will try and match her, but Weng has looked very strong over the first 1,500 metres, and Finland in 2nd. We've got Sweden in 3rd at the moment. Looks like America in 4 with Holly Brooks, and Norway 1 down in 5th place. Vibeke Skofterud, 32 years old, 11 podiums she's had in World Cup races, but has yet to get a win. Will it ever happen? Well, it doesn't happen for most skiers, and especially when you've got athletes like Bjørgen and Kowalczyk around. No one else really gets a look in.
Such a strong team, and it has to be a look. Right now, though, Skofterud is struggling a little when you see Norway's 2nd team, Heidi Weng, is making a very decisive move, and that has to be a little annoying for Skofterud, who we would have expected to be at the front. But it's Norway's 2nd team leading.
Yep. A bold attack from Heidi Weng, and Sweden are going with her. Sweden have got on the first leg Ida Ingmarsdotter, who won a sprint event in Bruksvallarna recently. So she's on pretty good form. 27-year-old, lives in Östersund, and most of the top Swedish skiers are sort of tending to head towards Östersund. They've got fantastic facilities, which we'll see later on today in the biathlon races, and that's an interesting concept, Mike. Does it mean that they all get better because they're training together, or does it mean that all the top skiers get a little bit isolated from the rest of the country?
Possibly the isolation. You need to be the magnet. When you have top athletes all training together, you've got good training partners, you're learning good skills and good discipline. For those who are not around that positive magnet effect of good training, I think they can feel a little left out.
So you get a short-term spike in performance, but in the long term, you have less really good athletes and less people benefiting from your top sportsmen because they're all sitting in one place.
And I think the German team, Zeller, we haven't seen her get back into the pack, but they're now becoming late 20s, early 30s, and they haven't brought that young generation on with them.
Well, Sweden certainly won't be complaining about their form at the moment. They're lying in second place behind Norway too. 5:58.6 the time for the first lap. So we're looking at just under 12 minutes for completion of the first 5 kilometres. We'll see if they get a negative split. The 2 laps actually on this first leg, slightly different length because they have to take a different route out of the start, but it's only a matter of 10 metres or so. Well, have a look at this. This is the first climb. There's our second and third fallers of the day. France guilty of taking out Sweden too. Jenny Ostberg going over the top of Aurogien, and that's another few seconds. And I'm absolutely convinced now, Mike, that all the falls have been in similar fashion, slightly uphill, and it's a case of the snow balling up under the ski, getting caught in the clister. They've probably got too much clister underneath, and there's still a little bit of soft snow around. Once you get a ball of soft snow stuck to the base of the ski, your glide factor goes from 100% to 0.
It's and you have to experience really to understand it. The icing factor. Once you step out of the glazed tracks onto the powder snow at the side, you do build up this, or sometimes even up to half a centimetre of ice building up, sticking onto the wax.
A good case where you should change your technique and not lift the ski too much?
I think so at all times, but you've got the friction here at, 35-40 kilometre an hour down these descents, so the friction is preventing the ice from building up on the sticky wax, which you so need on the icy tracks. Zeller's pulled back in at the 2.5. She's only 15 seconds behind now, the German. That's pretty good coming back from the broken ski pole. You can see the glazed tracks there.
Kazakhstan, one of the countries that were going well early on. Italy are in there as well. They've had a very good start. Nice to see the Italians going well. And they've got Virginia de Martin Troppinin on their first leg. Bracard, Agraita and Marina Pilla will be rounding that up. A new sounding team for the Italians, but they've started very well indeed in this leading bunch. And how about that, Mike? Vibeke Skofterud looked to be in all sorts of trouble at the end of the first lap of 2.5 kilometres, but now she's come back in the space of, 400 metres. She's made her way from 8th up into first and leads the way up the big climb.
Difficult to turn that round. When Heidi Weng last time up this climb, when Heidi Weng made the move, she left Skofterud by some 5 seconds. Well done to Skofterud for reading her own pacing and now taking the lead.
Possibly that, possibly the skis starting to work a little better as they adapt to the temperatures out on the course, but it's a familiar sight with the Norwegian suits 1 and 2. Sweden, their big rivals, in 3rd. Italy now in 4 as Martin Troppinin just nips in front of the Russian Julia Ivanova. Ivanova, the national champion over 10 kilometres classic. That's why she's got the shout, not because she raced well yesterday. And they've got Polina Medvedeva, who was 2nd in that national race. So they've put their 2 best classic racers on the first 2 legs, which you would expect. Norway, well, they didn't have too tough a job in selection, did they? Yesterday they got 1st, 2nd, 6th and 8th, so all 4 of them in the top 10, and on paper they're a good minute 1.5. In fact, almost 2 minutes clear of the next best team if you take the times and add them up from yesterday.
Incredibly strong team. It's great to see 5 teams there. Still 4 other teams staying with Skofterud.
Holly Brooks is still there. She's only 20 metres, 30 metres off the back of the leading group. So the Americans done well. Keegan Randall taking the second leg for the United States. So they've put their 2 best first. But Stefan and Diggins are both pretty handy athletes. And I think we could see America finishing in the top 5 today. That would be a good achievement.
I love this course. I'm not sure whether the athletes love it, but it's just so twisty, curvy. For every big steep climb, you've got a very quick and technical descent.
And some of the climbs, like this one, coming straight after quite a difficult corner. And so you have to choose, or you have to try and carry as much speed as you can around the corner and then decide when you're going to break from the glide into the herringbone technique. As you say, it's a technical course. This is really what it should be about. It's not all about just climbing big hills.
I love it. It's very much. And of course, remember, these the shoes they're wearing today, there's very little ankle support left or right. And look at Ingmar's daughter's pulse now, 96 dropping to 95. She's going to have to lift that up to stay with the lead too.
Weng still looks very comfortable on the near side, wearing 17. Vibeke Skofterud, a little bit of tightness in the shoulders, perhaps, but that's pretty usual for her. Classic is definitely her strong point and has been over the years, and she always does well in the early part of the season. So Skofterud is on her way, perhaps, to bring Norway in first position, but no decisive break has been made, and I think even those teams in 5, 6 and 7 can stand a chance of being back on level terms at the end of the second lap. 5 teams clear in a space of 20 metres at the very most, and we've got 2 Norwegians, we've got the Swedes there, the Italians, and no surprise to see the Russians hanging on as well.
And it literally is just hanging on there. Ivanova struggling this last 300 metres.
Now this could be a decisive move for the Norwegians' first team, because Therese Johaug has been put on the classic instead of the freestyle, and Norway certainly want to be clear before the start of the third leg. So away they go. Norway 2 for this second leg, relying on Astrid Jakobsen, and she's no slouch when it comes to classic skiing. The former sprint world champion over a distance of something like between 12 and 1500 metres. She'll be able to cope with a 5,000 no problem at all.
You just sense, and we saw it when Therese Johaug, the second leg for Norway, she went off like a little missile. She's really going to hurt those who can try and stay with her.
Holly Brooks coming in 9th position, but she's taken the scalp of Germany, France, Russia too, Kazakhstan, Poland and the Canadians. Disappointing run for Chandra Crawford. Lost touch early on that first lap. 32 seconds behind as she hands over to the second leg runner for Canada, which is Perrianne Jones. And then they have Yazova and Marshall taking legs 3 and 4. I'm not sure we'll see too much of them. 14 in the colours of Sweden too, that's Jenny Hansen. Well, if you take an aerial shot of the track, Mike, they never actually go more than 250 metres from the start of the race, so you don't need a massive amount of space to build a cross-country skiing track, and they've done an exceptionally good job here in Gällivare.
Welcome back to the first of this season's relays, and it's all change at the front. Therese Johaug, as we probably expected, is beginning to really hurt the rest of the pack.
Yeah, she's a great inclusion in the Norwegian team, and she's one of those. I'm sure you approve of her racing style, Mike, which is 100% all the time. But what she's been able to do is to apply the pressure, but maintain the perfect technique, particularly in freestyle. And I'm thinking back really to Oslo in the 30K, where she skied so beautifully, but just powered all her way around the course. Here she is. It's a high work rate, it's a high tempo, but at the same time she's still thinking technique.
She is incredible, and you can see the mouth wide open. She's gasping for oxygen, and as you say, she's disciplined herself enough to keep this rhythm, the movement of the legs, to keep the efficient technique. And boy, has she hurt the rest of the field. They were together. She was together with Norway's second. Of course, it's Astrid Jakobsen. She's no slouch on her classic skis.
Yeah, her technique reminds me a little, although she's half the size of Oddbjorn Hjelmseth, who used to have a similar style. And he's another man who was good at this time of year. I think he won the first race up in Kiruna one year. But it's a high tempo. Norway 2 still in second place.
Bib 4 in blue, Medvedeva. She nearly fell on that tight right-hander. And look at the skis from Therese Johaug. She was snow ploughing, trying to kill the speed off prior to that. One of the steepest corners, this one.
Astrid Jakobsen, nice technique from her. The Russians, no problem on the downhill, but Keegan Randall looking very good indeed.
She was 11 seconds behind on the handover.
Well, look at the damage that Therese Johaug has done. Fantastic skiing from her. And Keegan Randall has had a very good start, Mike. I don't think she had an option. I think she wanted to make an impression here. And she's gone from outside the top 6 at the handover. And she's moving now up alongside second place and Astrid Jakobsen. There she is in the dark suit. Possibly starting too quickly. She might pay the price on the second lap, but you have to admire her tenacity on that first 2Ks. But still, it is Johaug who is pulling clear, and Johaug has been on very good form in the pre-season races, beating Marit Bjørgen on 2 occasions. That takes some doing. She didn't get the better of Bjørgen yesterday, but she still finished in second place. Picked up a good number of World Cup points, 80 for finishing second. Nice style, and that's a significant mark. 11 seconds the gap between Norway 1 and 2, Sweden in third, United States now in 4, 12 seconds. How far behind was Randall at the start of this second lap? We'll just get you that information so we can see what damage she's done. Well, 11.7, so she's maintained the same pace as Therese Johaug. She's going well.
Well, that's no mean feat over that 2 kilometres, especially with this terrain. Will Keegan Randall be able to hold that pace? I'm not sure.
France, a disappointing 10th at the moment. And Russia, too, with Tikhonova a long way off the pace. Up the climb, not a bad crowd. I think most of the crowd having a bit of a Sunday lie-in. We had 10,000 people here yesterday. That's a record for the first race here in Gällivare. And so the organisers absolutely delighted with the way things have gone. A number of them coming across the border from Narvik to support the Norwegian skiers. They would have been delighted to see a double victory for the Norwegians. Bjørgen, of course, winning the women's event comfortably. And the men who will be in action in the 4x7.5 this afternoon. That's going to be an interesting one, Mike. They've cut the distance, but bizarrely, they've kept the distance at 4x10 for the World Championships.
And the Olympic Games. That's surprising me. I think it's going to be a far more exciting race. The men just, reducing it to 7.5 from 10. And I, like yourself, I can't understand why you wouldn't keep that reduction of distance for the Olympics and World Champs.
And I would even be in favour of bringing it down to 4.5. And ironically, you get more gaps when you shorten the distance than you do when you have a longer distance. Because if you shorten it to the distance like the prologues that we have in the Tour de Ski, the pacing becomes even more crucial. And if you go 100% for the first 2K, you can get blown out of the water for the last, for the closing stages.
Interesting, and it will be interesting. The coaches will be looking. 2.5 is a significant drop for each of the male athletes, which we'll see later. I wonder how the coaches are going to be looking at this. Will they put more of an attack in earlier? They've certainly sticking to the normal routine of the placement of the athletes.
Just have a look at the technique. Good glide, good attack, and there's a little bit of downward compression on the ski. You can just pick it up. What she's trying to do is compress the ski onto the snow so the grip wax, or whatever she's using for grip, just gets that traction between the ski and the snow, and then she can drive the other leg forward and with the momentum get a little bit of glide. And there's no doubt that Johaug is just about the only one up that steep section getting any glide at all.
Incredible. incredible. Kikin Randall has moved into second place, and interesting watching her pulse rate monitor. She's dropping down to 84% of her max very quickly on the recoveries, but up to 92, so she has this ability to recover so quickly, therefore giving her more energy, if you like,
to attack the next uphill.
And that's just exactly as she's done on this steep climb into the stadium.
And skiing the way she's skiing, you have to take with a pinch of salt her comments from the press conference after yesterday's race, where she said, I didn't really know if I was going to be selected for the American team this year. Surely.
It's incredible, isn't it? But I know she's had her setbacks this summer, but yeah, I mean, in doubt in her own mind it should make the team or not, and then she comes third in the World Cup. Often that pressure off is a factor to relax you. Look at her. Fantastic performance. 92, there she is again. Top of the hill is 92. She recovers so quickly down to 84% of her maximum. That's an athlete in great condition.
Talking about pressure, the pressure will be starting to mount on Martin Hagen, who takes the third leg for Norway, because with Johaug doing so much good work, she doesn't have any choice but to try and maintain the gap between herself and the rest of the field. Now, who can challenge? Sweden, I'm not sure. They've got Lisa Larsson. I think Hagen and Larsson fairly evenly matched, but Hagen should be able to maintain a gap over her. Elizabeth Steffen goes for the United States. She'll be very pressed to close down on the Norwegian. Russia with Shikalova perhaps might do something. So I think things looking incredibly good for the Norwegians' first team at the moment.
Athlete we haven't mentioned, she should be coming into sight fairly soon. Justyna Kowalczyk, who had a poor performance yesterday. She's matching the pace of Therese Johaug at the front.
We had a few fallers on the course yesterday, out of sight of the camera. A little disappointed with the number of cameras they were using yesterday. Of course, we stay at the split points because that's where we find out exactly how everyone's getting on. But it would have been nice to see some of the course that we're seeing today, and they're doing a fantastic job today, covering particularly Johaug on her way round. And it looks now as though Kikin Randall is starting to close down on the leading team. She started 11.7 seconds behind Therese Johaug. Well, the first and second legs just about to be completed. There we go in the red bib. That is Norway's third runner, Martin Hagen. And then, of course, Marit Bjørgen will be taking leg number 4 for Norway. And if Norway start the final leg with a margin of even 20 metres, it's pretty much assured that they're going to come home in first place. Good effort from Johaug, Mike.
Oh, what an athlete to have in your lineup of 4. She's absolutely turned this race around, especially her attack from when she was handed over to make that positive gap.
Big moment for Elizabeth Steffen, who goes for USA from Burke Mountain Academy. Third in the national championships on the mass start behind Randall and Diggins. She is no slouch, so she should be able to hang on to a top 5 or 6 position and then give Jessica Diggins a chance at getting on the podium today, which would be a huge moment for the USA. Sweden in third place, Norway 2 in 4 now, having been in second place at the end of the first leg. And now Kristin Steire, who goes for Norway on the third leg in Norway's second team. Another fall for the French, who haven't had the best of days.
And another, they're getting in each other's way. That's, skis are trapped underneath their teammate.
Well, that is comical. I think we're going to see a little bit of that on Watts over the next couple of weeks. Easily done, but surely the skiers know that once you've touched, you hand over. But the problem comes when they touch and collapse from exhaustion.
Yes, all you're thinking about is getting across that red line to hand over. You don't think what's going to happen next.
2 freestyle legs remaining. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to Gällivare. This is the gap between first and second place, and we've just had a look at the stats from that second leg. Kikin Randall actually took time out of the Norwegians' first team, so she is on absolutely superb form now, just 8 seconds behind at the start. And Justyna Kowalczyk also had a very good run, Mike, for Poland, but now I think we'll see the Poles drop down the order with lesser skiers than herself.
Yes, the Polish team, they are building in stature. Of course, when you have Kowalczyk in your lineup, it gives you some hope, and they really have been working as a quartet to try and get themselves into the top 5. At the moment, Poland are 7th and 40 seconds behind. And Kowalczyk lost, I think, just confirmed 9 seconds on the fantastic time which Therese Johaug set. Lisa Larsen, 97%. She's trying to pull back. That really is hurting at the top of the first steep climb.
Hagen on her own, and slowly closing at the moment is the American team, who are doing very, very well. They've actually selected the first 4 places from their national 30-kilometre race. But if you look at the results there, 3 of them were very tightly matched. Between 4th and 5th was a huge margin of 2.5 minutes. So they've got 4 skiers in their own class, which is very good for the Americans. And I'm sure that's part of the reason that they've started to climb in terms of form.
This is a big day for Martine Hagen. They're leading in red. A lot of pressure to be wearing that red bib for Norway. And for me, she looks tense, she looks frightened. The responsibility is huge for her to keep Norway ahead. Diggins is trying to turn that around by closing the gap. She's down to 5.8 seconds. Of course, Elizabeth Stevens' second leg. There she is, bib 3 for America.
Well, I was just going to say that I thought Hagen was looking controlled, whereas Stephen behind her has obviously worked hard, is starting to look a little bit ragged with the technique. I think we'll see that gap between first and second open up on the second 2.5 kilometres. But time will tell. We'll know in the next 7 or 8 minutes or so. Remember, it's about 12 minutes for each of the 5-kilometre laps. So we're looking for a time of 50 minutes for the win here today. And Norway go through. They were 8.5 seconds ahead at the start of this lap, and now just 4.4. So Stephen has cut the margin by half. Sweden looking pretty good. They were 15.2 behind. They closed a couple of seconds, maybe good pacing from Sweden 1. That, of course, is Lisa Larsen, and she'll hand over to Charlotte Kalla, who pretty much won the relay on her own in 2010 with a fantastic effort. Well, it's not the brightest of days here in Gällivare, this far north. In 3 weeks' time, the days will be just a couple of hours long. They get the bonus in the summer, but the winter does seem long and hard. Well, it's great to see so many people out. Actually, I think they've doubled in number since the start of the race, Mike. I think you're absolutely right. Just enjoying an extra half hour in bed before the start of the race. But the organisers delighted with the turnout, and it makes a big difference to the athletes as well. America still getting closer from 4.4. They're under 4 seconds behind Norway 1 at the moment. The Swedes were 13 seconds behind, with Lisa Larsen on 99% at the top of that last hill.
Do you know what, Patrick, I keep thinking, how long can she sustain that 99% of maximum? She is such a fighter, Lisa Larsen. I think she's a name that really is going to place well in the World Cup standings this year, possibly even top 5.
But how accurate can that be? All they can do is estimate what your maximum pulse is, which generally you say, what, 120 minus your age.
Well, no, but they've worked that out with the coaches, so they have got an accurate reading on Ingmar's daughter and, of course, Lisa Larsen. So they have set them at each individual athlete's top maximum rate. It's impressive. But can Lisa Larsen? She really is struggling now. The lactic acid has got to be burning through these legs, affecting balance and possibly technique. I think she might be hauled in by Ruppinen.
Just going to correct that maximum pulse. I think it must be 220 minus your age is the general calculation. And all these athletes will have resting pulse rates around 45. The men's, many of them sub 40 for their resting pulse, but it's not so much the low pulse that's the indicator, it's the difference between your lowest pulse and your maximum that really gives you some idea of your capacity. What are the national athletes using now, Mike, for testing in the national centres? Is it still VO2 max, the critical indicator of performance?
I think it is. Generally, and I certainly know in Germany, the national team, they don't really, or they won't accept athletes unless you're between 80 and 85 VO2 max, that you have that capacity to use your oxygen to give you the energy. And which almost seems unfair, certainly in biathlon. And it depends on the build, doesn't it? We've had World Cup winners who have only been at 75% VO2 max, or with the capacity.
We have to take our hats off to Stephen of USA, who has continued in the same fashion as Keegan Randall, in that she's managed to close the gap down on the leading team. America now pulling a long way clear of third position and getting closer and closer to the leading Norwegians. Well, a good fight for third place. Sweden just leading that battle at the moment, ahead of Finland with Riitta-Liisa Ropponen, and then Riikka Sarasoja going for Finland on the last leg. No place in the 18 for Saarinen, which is a little bit surprising, but she's not on her best form at the moment. And still the Americans come. Elizabeth Steedman just pushing and pushing and pushing, and from 8 seconds behind, she's now about 8 meters behind the Norwegians. But is there something left in the tank for Martine Hagen as she works away, and she's still skiing with the same technique, Mike, but hasn't turned on a sprint quite yet?
She hasn't. She's kept it steady. She hasn't. I thought earlier she was very tense, and in third place in white, just going off into the distance. I can't believe that Lisa Larsson has found another turn of power to keep away from from the Finn Ropponen.
So Norway won, still in the lead, and that was an injection of speed there from Norway's Martine Hagen coming into the stadium, but she's left it late to try and open up any significant margin over the Americans, who've done incredibly well, but a good turn of speed. She's still got something in the tank. Marit Bjørgen is going to have some 15 meters to play with at the start of the final leg, and if there's one woman in the world that can cope with that, it is her. Now it's up to Jessica Diggins. The Americans still won't be thinking in terms of winning this one. They will be desperate to get themselves on the podium. That would be a fantastic effort from them, but they've now got 3 very strong teams, and in particular Sweden won, with Charlotte Kalla in white heading out in third place, ahead of Finland, who've got Riikka Sarasoja-Lilja, and then of course we've got Norway 2 in 5th place at the moment, and Martha Kristoffersen. So well, will it stay this order? I'm not sure it will. It's been a fantastic relay so far, and Norway will be very grateful for the work that Therese Johaug did on the second leg.
Therese Johaug certainly made the difference, but what an incredible day for the United States team, and now Diggins going last. This is the best they've ever been at this stage in a relay ever, so a fantastic day. I'm not sure that Diggins is going to be able to stay ahead of Kalla.
And if Kalla catches Diggins, I think Kalla may well take the Finns with them, because Sarasoja is like a little Jack Russell. She will hold on, and she will fight and fight and fight to make sure that she doesn't lose too much time on the Swedes, and that could help her move up into a top 3 position. Well, look at the damage that Bjørgen's done already. Fantastic skiing from her in the first kilometre, and Diggins is on her own. 36.19, she went past the camera. She's still got 6 seconds over Sweden and Finland at the moment. We'll watch those margins. The gap between 1 and 2 is growing. The gap between 2 and 3 at the moment is staying steady. Well, further down the order, behind Norway 2, we have Russia 1. And then Poland dropped down into 7th place now after that third leg. France in 8th, which is disappointing. Sweden 2 in 9, and Finland 2 in 10. Canadians way down in 14th position at the moment, 1:45 behind. The world's best skier, perhaps the best female skier ever to grace the Tour, Marit Bjørgen, who pushes away to the top. She got her 56th World Cup victory yesterday, and she did it in style. Had the advantage of starting last, which she's had for the last couple of seasons, to be honest. Would she have won, Mike, had she started in front of the likes of Therese Johaug?
It's an interesting one. There certainly is the advantage when you know everything in front of you. You have the information on the fastest skier to when you pass your coach and he's giving the information. It's an interesting one. Johaug is certainly on great form, and we'll certainly see next weekend in Kuusamo, Finland, where she really stacks up.
Nice to see Bjørgen working just as hard in the relays as she does in the individual races. You can see the developments behind. Charlotte Kaller has caught Diggins after 2 kilometres, and now it's up to the American to try and hang on to third place. Sarah Sawyer's starting to look tired, so there is still a chance. Diggins has got to stay strong. It's a horrible feeling when someone comes past you, Mike. Suddenly, all the strength gets sapped out of your legs. But it will depend what sort of a racer she is.
It really will test her, maybe her mental strength as well as her physical discomfort. She's clearly in discomfort now, Diggins. She's pushed so hard. Can she stick with Kaller? I think Kaller's on wonderful form here, and possibly, incredibly, just possibly, she might close the gap and maybe even make contact with Bjørgen.
Now you're dreaming. Surely that's not going to happen. I thought Kaller looked good yesterday, but I thought she looked good for 8 kilometres and then just started to lose the technique a little later on. So she's almost on best form, but I think maybe a couple of races before she's going to be starting to challenge for victories.
I thought the camera shot foreshortened it. I thought she looked closer than she actually is. She must still be down about 13 seconds behind Bjørgen, which is a huge amount to pull back over the next 2.5.
Sweden in second place, and that's where they finished 2 years ago. For 4 years on the trot, it was all about Norway, Germany and Finland, but the Germans haven't been on the podium since 2008. Finland have always been there or thereabouts. They finished third last year behind the 2 Norwegian teams, so they'll be expecting, and the Finnish fans will be expecting, some sort of success today. They certainly won't take kindly to being beaten by the Americans, and so I think we're going to see Sarah Sawyer fight and fight, particularly on this second lap. Halfway there for Marit Bjørgen. The first lap of the final leg is complete. She's got 2,500 metres to go. Less than 6 minutes for someone of Bjørgen's quality. And so we're still looking at a time, well, it's going to be very quick indeed. It's going to be around 45, 46 minutes for the win.
Well, Kaller, you can see it there, it's still 15.5 seconds, and maybe the fight is beginning to drop a little out of Kaller when she realises it's still 15.
Well, all credit to Diggins, because I think Diggins has managed to hang on to Kaller, not in terms of being a metre behind, but she's been towed by Kaller initially. Diggins in the black, looking a little ragged. Sarah Sawyer, though, has now dropped 6 seconds behind the Americans, so that American podium is still possible.
You just sense and you feel with Bjørgen, she's such a strong athlete. She said yesterday before the race she loves these hills. Her strength, it really does suit her, this track profile. And 640 metres climb within the 4 athletes' legs. It's a huge amount of climbing.
Starting to cast an eye over Martha Christopherson, who's been in 5th place for the whole of this final leg so far, but she has closed the gap very rapidly, and she's looking the strongest on the uphills. And it's unlikely to be Finland that deny America. It's quite likely to be Norway too, and that's always a little disappointing for nations when you have 2 or 3 Norwegian teams.
Well, Sweden, because they are the host nation, they had 4 teams in today. I've just seen that Sweden's 4th team has pulled out. I don't know why. Maybe there was a fall.
Well, Bjørgen has vanished, well out of sight of Charlotte Kaller. We're going to see an interesting battle between those two this year. Still waiting to hear whether they'll all be taking part in the Tour de Ski, which for me certainly is one of the highlights of the season. But it's a really demanding race program, isn't it, Mike? 6, 7, 8 races in the space of just over a week, and then of course they go on to the World Championships in February. So most of the athletes want to conserve something for those World Championships.
It is such an attraction now, the Tour de Ski. This will be the 7th season the Tour will be in the programme. And it really is an attraction. The crowds they're getting now and the TV viewing figures. So all the best want to be part of that action.
Now, Norway too have gone past Finland, but they seem to have knocked a little bit of life into Sarah Sawyer, who's now started to close down on Diggins of USA. Charlotte Kaller, I think, is in cruise mode, eating up the uphill climb. The last of the big climbs on this course. She's looking very strong. Diggins is getting caught by the meter, and it is Norway too who are going to move through. Martha Kristoffersen will find some space at the top of the hill. Diggins, though, will have to just try and well, she's got to try and keep contact and then hope that she's got something for a sprint in the stadium.
I think Diggins has dealt with the pressure of this situation, being handed over to in second place. She really pushed the pace up the first climb for a kilometre, took herself outside her comfort zone, and now she's struggling because of that.
Bjørgen's eased off a little now. I think she knows the race is won. She's just got a couple of minutes to go, not much more than that. Charlotte Kaller still working hard, but once again, looked fantastic in the early stages. Just doesn't look quite race fit at this stage. On 91%, 179. Well-paced race from Martha Kristoffersen. Wasn't interested in going with Kaller and Sarah Sawyer early on, but she's done a lot of damage on the second leg, and Sarah Sawyer now has burnt out, having tried to stay with Charlotte Kaller for the first 2Ks.
I was surprised going through the stadium. Sarah Sawyer, the Finn, she looked comfortable. I think she's more comfortable on the more gentle terrain than she is on the very steep climb. She hasn't quite got her full race form yet. Well, this is when the legs, and you can see Kaller being careful. She fell yesterday. Quite a fast impact it was, quite a fast fall. So she's being a little careful, I think, on these twisty curves.
Just a couple of 100 metres to go for Marit Bjørgen now, and the Norwegian coaches have been giving her all the information that she needs. She knows that she's extended her lead over the second place team, which is Sweden 1. Charlotte Kaller, a class athlete, of course, the Olympic champion over 10 kilometres. And it's time to celebrate once again for Marit Bjørgen. Do you think this is why she keeps coming back? Interesting yesterday, Mike, where she said the training season, thank goodness it's over, let's get racing.
It is interesting that it is painful, so she has to keep and maintain the focus, and she doesn't slack off at all in the summer build-up, and this is what she loves, the victories.
So yet another victory, the third in succession in this race, and it will be what, the 7th in the last 8 years for the Norwegian quartet. Skofterud, Johaug, Hagen and Bjørgen. Hagen, the new name in there. Stara really has been one of the key players in the Norwegian squad over the years, but you can't fault their effort. Johaug, a fantastic run on the second leg to open up the gap, which was maintained thereafter. Now we've got a great race for that third place, and it looks as though the USA could just about deny Norway too, and they do it with Diggins. What a fantastic run, and she's just shown what a personality she is. Very, very strong racing character, and Diggins has raced the race of her life to put America into third place, 28.2 seconds behind. Keegan Randall needs some credit, Mike. She did a fantastic job on that second leg to get back in touch with the leaders, and Elizabeth Stephen on the third leg.
It's brilliant what the American team are doing, and you mentioned the fight that Diggins had there. She was not going to let go of that bronze medal at this first World Cup. It was a fantastic leg she put in.
So what a scalp to take. Not only have they beaten Norway's second team, but they've beaten Finland and they've beaten Russia. Oh, this is a bit like when the Japanese team gave the top nation such a shock in Oslo in the relay. It's
so good seeing well, teams who you wouldn't expect. Of course, the last couple of years, the Americans have been coming up, establishing themselves, and they've confirmed that first relay of this reason that they are there. They are absolutely there with the best.
Well, they've done what the German squad did after 2002. And then they were very good for 5 or 6 years. Let's hope that it's not just a temporary spike in form for the Americans and that they can keep it going. Certainly, America is one country where success breeds success, because so many young kids will see them doing well and hopefully will raise their game as well. So a fantastic run for Norway. They get the victory as expected, and a comfortable one, but an excellent run from Sweden in second, USA third. So a few days off for the women now, but remember we have the men's race coming up in just about an hour's time, and the men racing over 4 by 7.5. There's the American squad, delighted with what they've achieved today. Brooks, Randall, Stephen and Diggins getting third place behind Norway and Sweden. Welcome back to Sweden. Some of the tail enders just finishing the women's 4x5 relay. Kazakhstan coming across in 18th place. They started very well, actually, Kazakhstan. Canadians, I think, will be a bit disappointed. Mike, how did they get on?
Canadians finished down in 14th position, but 2:59 behind. They will be a little disappointed, I think, at this stage.
Total distance of 20 kilometres, of course, with each of the ladies racing 5Ks. Now, there are the results confirmed. 45.32, the winning time for that quartet. Skofterud, Johaug, Hagen and Björgen. And second place for Sweden, 19.4. Charlotte Kaller, really in no man's land. She just had to defend second. I don't think she thought she was going to catch Björgen. And the shock of the day, or the pleasant surprise of the day, that we have a new nation on the podium for the first time in a long time. The USA have finished in third, and we're hoping that is the start of something very, very special indeed, and this could be their best season ever. Well, there's lots of winter sport coming up over the next few hours, with Nordic combined coming from Lillehammer. We'll have more cross-country from Sweden, of course, with the men's 4 by 7.5. David Goldstrom is in Lillehammer for the ski jumping as well, and we'll get to see some of the ski jumping from yesterday. So if you're a jumping fan, there is plenty on the schedule for you today. Final word, Mike, from that 4 by 5?
Well, the only big change with the American team coming up onto the podium, Norway seems to be, as usual, winning again. Fantastic form, their quartet.
Well, that's 3 out of 3 for the Norwegians. One more race to go here in Gällivare, the men's 4 by 7.5. Will it be the Norwegians who dominate throughout the first weekend? Join us in just over an hour's time to find out. From Mike and myself, goodbye.